Wherever you are tuning in, thank you for joining us for the next phase of Axiom Space's Ax-2 mission on this early morning. The Ax-2 mission is the second all-private crew to the International Space Station, dedicated to expanding access to low Earth orbit for all. You're watching the live approach and docking coverage of the Ax-2 mission as NASA, SpaceX, and Axiom Space begin close proximity operations with the International Space Station. Hello, I am Duke Brady, a multimedia specialist with Axiom Space, and with me is Kate Tice, Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX. Our 4-person Axiom crew will experience 10 days on orbit, 8 days on board the ISS. This webcast is a joint broadcast between NASA, SpaceX, and Axiom Space, as we will walk you through the events of Dragon approaching and docking with the ISS and carry our coverage through to the welcome ceremony that awaits the crew once they are on board the International Space Station.
The Ax-2 mission officially started yesterday, Sunday, May 21st, when the Axiom crew lifted off from historic pad 39A at 2:37 p.m. Pacific, 5:37 p.m. Eastern. The crew inside Dragon spacecraft is now in position to begin approaching the International Space Station. Now let's check in with the teams at Johnson Space Center who are actively monitoring Dragon Freedom's progress.
Good morning, Kate and Duke, and welcome to the International Space Station Flight Control Room. I'm NASA's Leah Cheshire, and Dragon has been chasing down the International Space Station for almost 14 hours now since that launch yesterday, and we are just seconds away from the approach initiation burn. Now, the approach initiation burn is going to bring Dragon up about 400 meters below the International Space Station, so about a quarter of a mile. And it's also, and we just heard the call, that the AI burn has begun. We're probably going to hear some chatter between the crew and the ground here throughout the morning. The teams here in Mission Control Houston are being led by Flight Director Marcos Flores. They're monitoring all of these systems aboard the International Space Station.
Okay, we'll move into switch ground 3 then.
And to the right of Marcos Flores is our Capcom, Justin Cartledge. He is working with the teams aboard the International Space Station, speaking with the astronauts there. Again, the AI burn is underway. This is a firing of the Draco thrusters on Dragon. It's about a 90-second burn. And it's going to bring us up until we're about 400 meters.
Suit downing and audio configuration.
Copy that. 4.010 complete.
That call from Commander Peggy Whitson aboard Dragon that they are now in their suits and they have good comm checks. And we have confirmation of a good AI or approach initiation burn.
Dragon
Again, that
SpaceX
approach
on the big
initiation.
loop. We had nominal AI maneuver completion. Reminder, if C2V2 link is lost for 10 minutes without ground action, Dragon will perform a breakout. Timers are available in your event details.
And Dragon copies.
And Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Let's try this again. 144K bidirectional link is established. Change your PTT destination to ISS and then initiate comm check with SpaceX, Houston, and station.
Dragon copies on the big loop. So Dragon Tech, SpaceX, how do you read?
And Dragon, I believe you still have ground set elected to your PTT.
And with completion.
Ground, or SpaceX ground, Dragon, how do you read us on the big loop?
And Dragon SpaceX on Dragon Ground, if you could
Okay,
switch seat 2 to PTT of ISS.
Yes, my bad. SpaceX Dragon on the big loop now for seat 2. How do you read?
And I have you 5x5 on the big loop.
Excellent. And Station Dragon on the big loop. How do you read?
Dragon Station has you loud and clear.
Looking forward to seeing you guys.
Likewise.
And Houston Station on the big loop. How do you read?
Houston read you 5x5. How me?
We have you loud and clear as well.
And SpaceX Dragon Ground, how do you read?
And John, I have you 5x5. How me?
Sounds good, thanks.
As you can hear, we are up and running this morning. You heard a lot of comm checks when we were discussing the big loop. This is a loop created so that the space station, Dragon, and the teams on the ground in Hawthorne and here in Mission Control Houston can all communicate on the same loop. Our Cronus flight controller set that up this morning.
And Dragon
That means we
SpaceX
are
on Dragon Ground for suit leak checks.
Dragon, go.
Hey John, you have a go to perform 4.011 to start your suit leak checks.
Okay, sounds good. We're go for those suit leak checks. Dragon.
The Ax-2 crew members are already in their suits this morning. And we did, at the start of today's broadcast, just have completion of the approach initiation burn. Dragon is now about 400 meters below the International Space Station. It has also passed into the approach ellipsoid. We call that the AE. That's an imaginary shape measuring a 4 kilometer by 2 by 2 kilometer, essentially a large 3-dimensional oval. This means Dragon is on a 24-hour safe
on Dragon
trajectory.
Ground, low priority.
Dragon ready.
Hey John, I was just wondering, did that echo resolve itself?
Yes, sir. You're crystal clear now. Thank you very much.
That's good to hear. Thanks.
The crew reported hearing an echo just moments ago before we joined the broadcast today when they had multiple loops set up for communication, but now everyone is established and speaking on the big loop, meaning all teams involved can hear the communication. We are tracking docking to the Node 2 Zenith, or the space-facing port, this morning at the International Space Station at about 8:10 a.m. Central Time, 9:10 Eastern Time. So moving right on time. Now 14 hours and 2 minutes since launch yesterday afternoon.
SpaceX Dragon Ground. We're ready to pressurize at 2.2.
And Dragon SpaceX, you are go to initiate suit leak checks.
Dragon copies.
Again, we are here in Mission Control Houston this morning, monitoring Dragon's docking to the International Space Station, scheduled for 8:10 a.m. Central Time. But we have teams in Mission Control Hawthorne monitoring Dragon's flight since launch yesterday as well. So I'm going to send it back to Kate and Duke.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Leah. We did hear the call out that the crew got the okay to begin the suit leak check. As Leah mentioned before, they donned their suits a little bit ago, and that leak check is basically just inflating the suits a little bit and monitoring the pressure for a couple of minutes just to make sure that now that their suits are back on, all those zippers are in the right place and the visor is latched and locked and ready to approach.
It's great. It's great to hear all those healthy comm checks as well. As the Dragon begins its approach to the space station, let's learn a little bit more about the Ax-2 crew. The Ax-2 mission is commanded by retired NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. Born and raised in Beaconsfield, Iowa, she was inspired along with the world when she watched the Apollo 11 crew walk on the moon. She has since become the most experienced American astronaut and one of the most decorated. Whitson flew 3 long-duration missions to the ISS and has more cumulative time in space, 665 days, than any U.S. astronaut and more than any woman in the world. She has conducted 10 spacewalks with over 60 hours out in the vacuum of space and has performed hundreds of research experiments on board the ISS. Not only is she the commander for this mission, but Peggy also serves as the director of human spaceflight for Axiom Space.
The pilot for Ax-2 is private astronaut John Schaffner. Born in Alaska and raised in Kentucky, Schaffner is a STEAM education advocate, business pioneer, and lifelong space enthusiast. A pilot since the age of 17, John has over 8,500 flight hours holding commercial, instrument, single-engine, and multi-engine ratings in land and sea aircraft, as well as helicopter. He also holds ratings in former military jets and high-performance...
SpaceX Dragon ground. We show 4 good suit leak checks here.
And ground concurs.
All right, good news there. Just letting us know that all the suit leak checks checked out. As an athlete, John has years of competitive experience in water skiing, cycling, whitewater kayaking, hang gliding, skydiving, and base jumping. John trained as the Ax-1 backup pilot, and during this mission, plans to invest a lot of his time in STEAM education activities aimed at empowering educators and inspiring teachers.
And representing the Saudi Space Commission and serving as a mission specialist, Ali Al-Karni was born in March 1992 in Sabd al-Alaya, Saudi Arabia. Ali is fluent in English as well as his native Arabic, and as an Air Force captain, Ali has 12 years of experience flying on multiple aircraft, primarily on the F-15SA in service to the Royal Saudi Air Force. Ali graduated with a Bachelor of Aerospace Science degree in 2013 from King Faisal Air Academy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Also representing the Saudi Space Commission and serving as a mission specialist, Rayana Barnawi was born in September 1988 in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Rayana has a master's degree in biomedical sciences from Al Faisal University in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and a bachelor's degree in biomedical sciences from Otago University in Dunedin, New Zealand. She is fluent in English and Turkish as well as native Arabic. She has been a research lab technician since 2013 in the Stem Cell and Tissue Reengineering Program at King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center located in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
And there you have it, the Ax-2 crew. This is a fantastic, wonderful group of people who have spent months and thousands of hours preparing for this moment. We are so proud of them, and it's so awesome to finally see them in space.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to actually hear from the crew I was like about 3 hours after they made it to, after they got into space. That on-orbit media event was awesome. We got to see and hear from Peggy, John, Ali, and Rayana, and it was just so cool to see them floating around and spinning their water bottles and playing with the zero-G indicator. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun to see them play.
It really was great.
Now, today's crew, as we said, Peggy Whitson, John Schaffner, Ali Al-Karni, and Rayana Barnawi have gone through extensive training around the globe to be ready for their 10 days in space. Each crew member has between 700 and 1,000 logged hours of time since mid-2021 dedicated to learning these SpaceX protocols, ISS systems, and to prepare for the science and outreach activities that they'll be conducting while in space. Private astronaut training is rigorous. To prepare the Ax-2 crew for their mission, our teams here at SpaceX have spent the last several months teaching the crew about orbital mechanics, how to live in microgravity, and running simulations full of missions from inside our Dragon training capsules. The training program includes nearly 100 different lessons covering all aspects of the flight.
And the list of training goes on. There's a lot more that they did, and we'll try to recap some of it. The Ax-2 crew spent time in simulators to orient their bodies to the conditions that may be experienced during the course of the mission, including into a centrifuge right here, simulating higher G-forces. Alternatively, the crew also participated in a zero-G parabola flight that simulated the lack of G-forces to experience weightlessness. Seems awesome. But aside from the simulating gravitational forces they will experience over the course of their journey, they also underwent altitude training in a hyperbaric chamber. This training simulates high altitudes where oxygen levels are low, and the crew uses this to identify how their bodies respond to hypoxic situations, as well as recognizing those effects in their crewmates. To be ready to spend 8 days on board and working on the International Space Station, they've spent time learning from mission controllers, experts in safety and emergency ISS procedures, as well as the essentials to living on board the orbiting laboratory. Things like how to heat up your food, where to find all the equipment you need, etc. The goal is to be able to confidently complete every task on their timeline, but to also be contributing members of the space station as a whole as other astronauts carry out their duties. And to that end, this crew will be working in areas on the ISS that are owned and operated by other countries. So the crew traveled to Germany and Japan to be qualified on those systems. The European Space Agency's Columbus module was in Cologne, Germany, where they trained on systems and operations for daily tasks, as well as responding to contingencies. Separately, to qualify for the Japanese Exploration Module, or GEM, the crew traveled to Tsukuba, Japan, to learn from the instructors from the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. As you can imagine, international collaboration is a constant throughout this mission. So it's one thing to learn the systems of ISS, but it's just as important to understand how to live and work as a team in a shared space. And so the team spent 5 days training in the Human Exploration Research Analog, or HERA, at the Johnson Space Center. This is a confined experience that is designed to isolate the crew to build cohesiveness and teamwork. This experience included a chance to simulate work and research procedures, rehearse outreach efforts, and even respond to mock emergencies, all while living in close quarters, unable to leave.
The team also spent time at the launch pad, in the suit-up room, and working through emergency procedures that might be necessary in the unlikely event of a pad abort scenario.
That's right. That's
pretty cool to see.
Absolutely. And you know, all of this training culminated in a final patch hanging ceremony at Johnson Space Center to mark the end of this crew's training. This is a tradition of NASA's that dates back to the beginning of the ISS 20 plus years ago. All that is to say this team is ready to go. And the last few months have all led to the here and now. What they accomplish on station is going to help write the guidebook for our next missions and how we coordinate efforts on our future Axiom station. Needless to say, this is also an important moment for those training crews as really they become a family and feel so connected after all of that time together.
Now on your screen, we have our first view of Dragon. This view comes to us from the International Space Station. We can see the lights blinking, indicating its location, and this is the furthest away it will be on camera. So it is approaching the International Space Station. For those of you that have just recently joined us, we had confirmation that the crew completed their suit leak checks, and those leak checks looked good. So they are in their seats, they're strapped in, and they are monitoring the progress of their approach to the International Space Station.
This is what traffic looks like at the ISS.
Very true.
There's no doubt that the incredible efforts of thousands of folks across NASA over the last 2 decades have set the stage for what is possible in low Earth orbit. The Ax-2 mission is a critical step toward opening those possibilities to a host of new participants, governments, diverse researchers, manufacturers, and more. Here on Earth, we're already seeing benefits from research currently conducted on the ISS, from water and air purification systems to testing medical devices and therapeutics. Pretty amazing stuff.
In addition to tech demos and medical research, access to low Earth orbit allows for a connection to the arts and other outreach opportunities. Ax-2 is the first of several proposed missions in advance of Axiom Station, the world's first commercial space station. A sustainable commercial low Earth orbit economy means expanded access to work in space. It also frees up NASA and its partners to put their budget towards other exploration programs while granting space agencies around the world more opportunities through commercial efforts.
And over its lifetime, the ISS has accomplished an unprecedented feat, continuously sustained operations on and off the Earth for more than 22 years. This is not only a true testament to the technology required to physically achieve that, but also to the collaborative and cooperative efforts of thousands of people across the world to ensure that multiple nations, agencies, and entities, both public and private, work together to push humanity forward. And as we move forward, private industries need time to learn how to establish and maintain these relationships effectively. So, by flying private astronaut missions like Ax-2 to the ISS, Axiom is taking essential steps to get that on-the-job training as we work towards building the world's first commercial space station. Axiom Station is an opportunity to continue the story of the ISS, science, and research through cooperation and collaboration for the benefit of all. Ax-2 is this next chapter.
So once again, we are observing Dragon Freedom as it approaches the International Space Station. The crew has their suits on, they're in their seats, and they are inside those blinking lights.
That's so amazing to think about.
And we will see those blinking lights get closer and closer over the next couple of hours. Everything when you are approaching or departing the International Space Station is highly choreographed, and it's really slow, and that's for safety purposes. It's the safer way and the best way to do it. So we will see Dragon get closer and closer. Even those two lights that we see, the red one and the green one, they represent the port and starboard side, and I never remember what color goes to what, but I can tell you that we will start to see those get closer as we have been, even over the last few minutes.
You might be seeing some stars on your screen, but most of those dots are dead pixels in that camera sensor, and that happens because of that high radiation in space.
Now, Dragon is capable of carrying up to 7 passengers to and from Earth orbit and beyond. It is the only spacecraft currently flying that is capable of returning significant amounts of cargo to Earth, and is the first private spacecraft to take humans to the space station. Dragon is fully autonomous, which means that it flies itself, but it also features full manual override capabilities in case of emergency. Standing at almost 27 feet tall from bottom of the trunk to the top of the nose cone, Crew Dragon is composed of 2 main elements: the capsule, which is designed to hold crew and pressurized cargo, as well as an unpressurized section, which is known as the trunk. The nose cone at the top of the capsule protects the docking system and also the guidance navigation control system, which is the system that's being primarily utilized right now as Dragon is approaching the International Space Station. That nose cone opens for docking and remains attached to the attached to the Crew Dragon spacecraft, unlike previous versions of Dragon, and that helps toward our efforts toward reusability. Now, opposite of the nose cone is the trunk. It provides attachment points for Falcon 9, the Dragon capsule, and cargo. One half of the trunk is covered in solar panels. That's the black side of the trunk on the exterior. And those provide power to Dragon during flight and while on station. The other half contains a radiator and